Palmer in motion. Ruin going deep for Guy. Touchdown, Fullerton!
Once on it, you're always on it. Once on it, you're always on it. Once on it, you're always on it.
I used to, as maybe a 7th grader, 6th grader, I used to run home after school and make a bunch of peanut butter sandwiches, run back to the high school and go out to practice, and I'd give players a sandwich. And so that was my life. I wanted to play sports. I wanted to be a coach, and that's all I ever thought about.
In the history of Fullerton College, there has never been a winning streak like the one presided over by the legendary head coach of Hornet football, Hal Scherbeck. For 31 years, he led the Hornets to 241 victories, setting a record at the time for the most wins ever by a community college football coach. His teams steamrolled the competition to win 16 conference titles and appear in 13 bowl games. The trophies and accolades were a boost not only for Scherbeck and his team, but for the entire school. Yet beyond all the success on the gridiron, something more important was happening. Something that would change the lives of his players forever.
I think the secret to Hal's success, honestly, is, and it's something that I use still today in coaching. I used it when I was the head coach of the New York Giants. I tell my coaches, those players don't care how much you know until they know you care about them. And that's always been a signature, and every time I say it, I think of Hal Scherbeck.
As early as 1916, Fullerton College fielded competitive teams in such sports as football, basketball, tennis, and track. But with the onset of World War I and its impact on the campus, the teams were abandoned. Only a few years into the school's existence, student enrollment sputtered and didn't recover until 1921. Only then did sports teams take to the playing field again. Hornet basketball chalked up winning seasons starting in the mid-1920s. The college also became well known for its baseball teams, water polo players, and track stars. Both men and women made a showing in swimming and tennis, but in football, there wasn't much success. For years, Santa Ana Junior College had been the football powerhouse in Orange County. But in 1961, all that began to change when Fullerton College President Lynn Scheller chose Hal Scherbeck, a high school coach from Montana, to take over the football program. Their first game took Scherbeck and the team on the road to play against a perennial powerhouse in community college football, Bakersfield.
I mean, they just kicked our fannies, and we never scored all night. The game was 50-0. I go back to Fullerton, and now the people in Fullerton, they were all wondering who I was coming from Montana. One of the things that some of them asked me if I had unpacked. Yeah. And so that's my initiation into junior college football. And I vowed at that time that they would not beat us again, which they didn't.
For Scherbeck, the work of building the football program had just begun. Between the head coach and his staff, relentless recruiting and a positive attitude began to pay dividends, not just in the victory column, but in the lives of his players as well. One of those young men was a second-string quarterback named Jim Fassel.
He had never started a ball game until it was late in the season, and we were playing Orange Coast. And I used to, before every game, I'd put up the starting offensive lineup, but I didn't put any name in the quarterback slot. I left that blank.
We were number 1 in the nation, and Orange Coast was number 2. And so I'm a freshman, and I went out to warm up, and I'm kind of going, whew, am I going to start or not start?
I told the staff that I would decide after pregame warm-ups who I was going to start. And so we came in after pregame warm-up, and I put Fassel's name on number 1. And that was the first game in his whole career that he ever started. And he not only made me look good, he set a record number of touchdown passes, number of yards, of completions against Orange Coast. It was unbelievable.
It was the start of an amazing 47-game winning streak. And with success, the crowds got bigger and bigger.
It was nothing for us to have 10, 12, 15,000 people at a game at Anaheim Stadium. And so we played there. Many times when we would go to Bakersfield, when we go to Cerritos, we'd go to Orange Coast, we would always have more people on our side of the stand than the home team would.
The Hornets' unbeaten record would eventually lead to an appearance at the Junior Rose Bowl in front of 54,000 fans. And through it all, Scherbeck's philosophy remained the same.
Every year, we had a different group of guys. And to get young men who played at the local high schools that were enemies in high school, and now all of a sudden they're at Fullerton College and they're playing on the same team. I said, I don't want anybody, I don't want to hear any negative vibes from any of you. And that's what we built on.
One of the hallmarks of a great coach is the ability to inspire their players to greatness. But for Hal Scherbeck, the concern he felt for each individual extended well beyond the gridiron, as Jim Fassel found out.
After my freshman year, SC and UCLA and Washington and all these schools were sending me letters, and of course Hal keeps them all. And so one day he calls me in the office, and I'm thinking he's going to call me in and say, I got some more letters for you from some colleges. And he sat me down and he said, I don't know where you think you're going after this, but you're not going anywhere unless you go to class.
By Fassel's own admission, success in football had gone to his head, and suddenly going to class seemed less important. Hal Scherbeck would have none of it.
He would take every individual on the team during the course of the season and meet with them and talk to them in his office with closed door. Never knew what was going on, never knew what he was saying to them. But it was obvious that whatever he was saying to them had an indelible impression on them for the rest of their lives.
Hal took the time to pull me in when he was the head football coach, athletic director, and chairman of the PE department. And when you went in there, he just took all the time like he had nothing else to do. And you knew he was busy, but it showed me that he cared about me beyond the football field.
That to me was the essence of the program. The fact that these kids would understand that what we were doing is trying to create a man for life, not just a man for the moment.
Coach Hal Scherbeck began a tradition of excellence in Hornet sports that continues to this day. His positive attitude and winning philosophy unmistakably inspired hundreds of students in multiple sports to excel beyond the playing field and to take that winning formula into their adult lives. As the saying goes, once a Hornet, always a Hornet.
They felt that once they became a Hornet, they were always going to be part of the program and loving each other and caring about each other. A lot of them have come back and told me from different teams, they've been someplace and they've found out this guy was a Hornet, and immediately they became close. They felt that they belonged to something that was good.
Retired now and living in his beloved home state of Montana, Coach Scherbeck remains an inspiration to countless former players. Despite all the victories, Scherbeck counts as one of his greatest achievements his record of sending more than 500 student athletes to four-year universities. He also gave one of his former players his first coaching job. For Jim Fassel, his days as a player in the NFL came and went without a star turn. Yet his love of the game made coaching a natural choice. Scherbeck offered him a starting salary of just $6 an hour to coach the team's quarterbacks. But the experience was priceless. It was a humble beginning to a career that would take Jim Fassel to the pinnacle of the football world, the Super Bowl. And in more ways than one, Hal Scherbeck shared in that victory.
When we beat the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC Championship game, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl, and there's bedlam all around. I mean, more media than anybody ever can imagine. And I grabbed the phone and called Hal. And I said, I want you to come to the Super Bowl, my guest. Everybody found out about Hal Scherbeck because I'd brag about him. It was a great week, and I always felt like, well, maybe that's a grain of sand on the beach compared to what he did for me as a payback.
All I know is that I think you have to treat people and show them your love for them, and you care about them, to let them know that you are for them. It's very touching because it just meant so much to me, and how they responded. And I guess that's the only thing I can say. It's just one of the things is accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between.